The police cruiser doors slammed shut with a heavy mechanical click that echoed like a final verdict. Snow swirled under the streetlights, Christmas Eve glowing with warmth everywhere except inside that locked car. Daniel Harper froze in the passenger seat, his breath fogging up the window, his heart pounding so loudly he was sure the officer beside him could hear it. He had only meant to grab a ride home. He had only meant to get back to his little girl before midnight. But now the doors were locked, and the female cop behind the wheel stared straight ahead and said the words that drained the color from his face. "You're not leaving." Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of one unexpected moment to change life, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment about where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Daniel hadn't meant to get into the wrong car. The bus station parking lot was chaos, headlights flashing against the falling snow, engines idling, families hugging, Christmas music leaking faintly from open doors. He had just finished a double shift washing dishes at a downtown restaurant, hands raw from soap and hot water, shoulders aching from lifting heavy trays. His phone battery had died an hour earlier, and the last bus had been delayed. He had promised 8-year-old Lily he would be home before midnight, promised they would decorate the tiny artificial tree together and hang the one glass ornament that had survived the move after her mother left. The cold was biting through his thin jacket when a dark sedan pulled up near the curb and idled. He assumed it was a rideshare. The driver's side window was slightly tinted, and he didn't notice the small emblem on the door in the dim light. He yanked open the passenger door and slid in, mumbling an apology about the snow and giving his address before looking up fully. That was when he saw the uniform. Officer Maria Alvarez had been working patrol for 12 hours already. Christmas Eve was always unpredictable. Domestic disputes, drunk drivers, lonely people making desperate decisions. She had pulled into the bus station lot to keep an eye on the crowd when a tired-looking man with snow in his hair jumped into her cruiser without hesitation. Instinct had taken over. The automatic locks engaged. Her hand hovered near her radio. She studied him carefully. Daniel's mind raced through every possible explanation that would not sound like a lie. He looked like what he was, a man in his mid-30s with stubble he hadn't had time to shave, brown hair flattened by a worn knit cap, dark circles under his eyes that had become permanent. His clothes were clean but faded. His boots were cracked at the seams. He held no weapon, only a small paper bag with a dollar store box of candy canes and a pack of crayons inside. He tried to speak, but his throat tightened. He had never been in trouble with the law, but poverty had a way of making innocent people look suspicious. He imagined the worst: an arrest, a misunderstanding, Lily waking up alone on Christmas morning. Maria had seen fear before, and she knew the difference between guilt and desperation. This man was terrified, not defiant. She asked him why he had gotten into a marked police vehicle. He blinked, confused, then glanced at the dashboard lights and the radio equipment as if seeing them for the first time. The realization drained him. He explained everything in a rush: a double shift, dead phone, last bus, daughter waiting at home. He apologized repeatedly, hands raised slightly as though surrendering to the absurdity of it all. He said he thought she was his ride. He said he was just trying to get home. Maria kept her voice calm, but she didn't unlock the doors yet. Something in his story felt real, but procedure demanded caution. She asked for identification. He handed over a worn driver's license. She ran his name through the system. Clean record, no warrants, no history of violence, just a long list of addresses over the years, moving from one low-rent apartment to another. While waiting for confirmation, she glanced at the small paper bag in his lap. The top was folded carefully, as if protecting something precious. He told her about Lily without being asked, about how her mother had left 3 years earlier, about how he had taken every shift he could get, even when it meant missing school events, about how tonight he had saved enough to buy her crayons because she loved to draw pictures of places she wanted to visit someday. He spoke quietly, like a man confessing failure rather than explaining himself. Maria's grip on the steering wheel softened. She thought about her own father, who had worked construction until his back gave out. She remembered Christmases where the gifts were simple but the love was fierce. She saw in Daniel's trembling hands the same exhaustion she had seen in her father's hands when he came home late, determined to give his children something better. The radio crackled. Dispatch confirmed his record was clear. Maria looked at him fully for the first time. Snowflakes had melted into his hair, tiny droplets sliding down his temple. His eyes were red, not from alcohol but from fatigue and something deeper, a fear of letting down the one person who still depended on him. She unlocked the doors. Relief flooded his face so suddenly it was almost painful to witness. He reached for the handle, ready to stumble back into the cold and figure out another way home, but her voice stopped him again, not with suspicion this time, but with something else. "It's Christmas Eve," she said. "Where do you live?" He hesitated, unsure if this was another test. Then he gave her the address, a small apartment complex on the edge of town, the kind with flickering hallway lights and thin walls. Maria shifted the cruiser into drive. The ride was quiet at first. Christmas lights shimmered on houses they passed, casting colorful reflections across the windshield. Inside the cruiser, the heater hummed steadily. Daniel kept apologizing under his breath, as if he still couldn't believe his mistake. Maria asked him about Lily's drawings. He described them with pride. Castles, beaches, astronauts. She wanted to be everything at once, he said. He admitted he sometimes worried that his small world would shrink her dreams. When they pulled into his apartment complex, the building looked even bleaker against the glowing holiday backdrop of the rest of the city. Only a few windows were lit. Snow had piled against the stairs. Daniel thanked her more times than she could count. He reached for the door again, but she noticed something that made her pause. Through the second-floor window of his unit, she could see a small silhouette sitting very still. Lily had been watching the parking lot for over an hour. She wore mismatched pajamas and held the paper star she had cut out herself. When she saw the police cruiser, her heart had jumped into her throat. Daniel followed Maria's gaze upward and his face tightened with worry. He stepped out of the car quickly, boots crunching in the snow, and hurried toward the stairs. Maria surprised herself by stepping out too. From the sidewalk, she watched father and daughter reunite in the doorway. Lily threw herself into his arms with such force that he almost lost his balance. He lifted her anyway, burying his face in her hair as if anchoring himself to the only solid thing in his life. Maria turned to leave, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the near miss of what could have happened if she had treated him differently. Maybe it was the sight of that nearly empty apartment visible through the doorway. Or maybe it was simply Christmas. She walked up the stairs and gently knocked. Inside, the apartment was small but neat. A tiny tree stood in the corner with only a few handmade ornaments. No presents underneath. Daniel looked embarrassed to have her see it. Maria crouched to Lily's level and introduced herself. Lily's eyes were wide, a mix of awe and leftover fear. Daniel quickly explained the misunderstanding in simple terms so his daughter wouldn't be scared. Maria asked Lily what she wanted for Christmas. The girl hesitated, then said she just wanted her dad home. The simplicity of that answer hit harder than any dramatic confession could have. Maria stood up slowly. She said she needed to make a quick call. Back in her cruiser, she contacted a community outreach coordinator she knew. Within an hour, something extraordinary began to unfold. Another patrol car arrived, then a third. Officers off shift stopped by. Someone brought wrapped toys from a holiday donation drive. Someone else brought groceries. A local church had extra winter coats. Word spread quietly across radios. Daniel watched in stunned disbelief as the parking lot filled again. This time not with chaos but with purpose. Boxes were carried upstairs. Lily's eyes grew wider with each trip. Maria made sure Daniel understood this wasn't charity born of pity. It was community responding to need. She told him that sometimes people fall into the wrong car for the right reason. That night, the small apartment glowed brighter than any house on the block. There was laughter, warmth, and more food than Daniel had seen in months. Lily carefully placed her new crayons beside the old ones her father had bought, as if honoring both equally. As the officers prepared to leave, Daniel stepped outside with Maria. Snow continued to fall, but it no longer felt harsh. He admitted that when she had locked the doors, He thought his life was about to collapse. He had imagined handcuffs, humiliation, his daughter alone. Instead, he had found something he hadn't expected in a long time: help without judgment. Maria told him that policing wasn't just about enforcing the law. It was about seeing people clearly in their worst moments and choosing what kind of difference to make. Before she got into her cruiser, Lily ran down the stairs and handed Maria the paper star she had been holding earlier. It was unevenly cut, glitter glued in small clumps. She said every Christmas tree needed a star. Maria kept that star on her dashboard for years. Daniel's life didn't transform overnight. He still worked long shifts. He still struggled. But something inside him had shifted. He enrolled in a night certification program with encouragement from the officers who had shown up. Maria checked in occasionally, never intruding, just reminding him that someone believed in him. Months later, he secured a better job with steadier hours. Lily's drawings began to include police cruisers with stars on top. And every Christmas Eve after that, Daniel told the story of the night he got into the wrong car and nearly lost everything, only to find that sometimes being told you're not leaving means someone is refusing to let you fall. If this story touched your heart, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us what humanity looks like at its best. And before we close, I have a special request: to comment the word star below if you believe even one small act of kindness can light up someone's darkest night. Because on a freezing Christmas Eve, a locked door didn't trap a desperate father. It opened a future he and his daughter would never forget.